What's going on, guys? So in front of you, you were looking at a lot of different components. And while I was in the process of charging this battery, this is a Lifetime 320 amp hour mini battery with Bluetooth, I decided I would make this video with the components I have to help demystify what is kind of mysterious to a lot of folks when it comes to the power that their RV takes. Basically, their 12 volt side and their 110, 120 volt side. So let's talk about that, and this should help clarify some things for folks who are kind of new to this, wondering what happens whenever they plug their RV into shore power. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so when you're plugged into the grid, you're plugged into shore power. Power is going to come into your RV, go via a large cable to this type of box. This is your power station. It's going to be different in different RVs. You might have a larger one, a smaller one. It might be a different brand, but this is the WIFCO brand. You're going to see a bunch of breakers right here, which power all of your 110, 120 volt stuff, like your microwave, your possibly a refrigerator if it's a large refrigerator. It's going to power your air conditioning units and your wall plugs. Right here will be the 12 volt side. This is going to be for all of your 12 volt powered stuff like your slide outs, your lights perhaps, or your leveling system, stuff that operates off of the battery. So sometimes you will have what's called a power converter built into this power station. Sometimes it's separate. So right here I actually am showing you one that has a built-in power converter, but I'm also showing you what the power converter looks like if it's separate. And again, it may look a little different, but if it's built in here, then you're not going to have this piece right here. If it's not built in, then you'll have a plug on the back here, a traditional looking 15 or 20 amp wall plug, and this will be plugged into the back of this. So how does this work? So you have your 120 volt or 110 volt going in here. It's going to have a switch for a converter, if it's using this type, to power this converter, which is going to convert the 110 power, your shore power, into 12 volt power to charge your batteries. And most of the time, it's going to be between 13.6 or 14.6 volts, depending on whether it's charging a lead acid battery or a lithium iron phosphate battery. This one being lithium iron phosphate, the auto detect feature on this WFCO power converter actually has the ability to switch to 14.6 volts to be able to charge this type of battery most effectively. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. If it was a traditional lead acid battery, which is the type of battery that you're more likely to get factory with your RV, unless you get certain brands that include lithium batteries, then this is going to charge at 13.6 volts for traditional lead acid batteries. Okay, so whether you have the converter built into this or the converter separate like this and it's plugged into this, that's the whole point of it, is to charge your batteries. Then you're going to have wires coming from your batteries, or traditionally it's going to be like a junction block, and it's going to go back to the power converter 12 volt side right here. So it's kind of an interesting daisy chain. So again, it's going to go from here to your battery to charge your battery via an internal charger or this charger. And then it's going to come back and it's going to connect to the 12 volt side here to be able to power all the 12 volt stuff in your RV. Now, if you have an inverter built into your RV, if they included something like a 1,000 or 2,000 watt or 3,000 watt inverter, then it's actually going to also go to the inverter. So you're going to have a really interesting web of wires here. You're going to have power coming in from your shore power going into this box. This box is then going to go to a converter, or the converter is going to be built into it to charge your battery. Your battery is going to be plugged into the 12 volt side here, and your battery could be plugged into a inverter, which is going to power things off of the battery off grid. So essentially, the reason why you might have an inverter in your RV, if it's included or you choose to add one, is because instead of requiring shore power to power the 110, 120 volt appliances or equipment in your RV, you want to be able to power it off of the battery. So all of this stuff is kind of connected together. Your 12 volt system, in most cases, is all seeing each other. All of your power wires essentially are connected together for the 12 volt side. Again, for the purpose of charging the battery, for the purpose of utilizing the battery for the 12 volt equipment inside of your RV, and the purpose of utilizing your battery for an inverter, which would be able to power your 110, 120 volt stuff inside of your RV. But these are the major components that you'll see. In some cases, if you have a solar setup on your RV, you'll also have a solar charge controller. You might have a few other components like a shunt. In the case of this battery, you really don't need a shunt. A shunt basically gives you state of charge. It kind of lets you know how much electricity is coming out of the battery, and it gives you the ability to see what that flow looks like, either coming in or going out of the battery. This one has Bluetooth built into it, so you don't really need a shunt with a system system like this, because it's going to give you your voltage and your wattage and your amp draw all at the same time via an application that you can view it from. So that's really cool with some of this new lithium technology, to have Bluetooth built in so you can actually see what's going on. But that's essentially how it works. You plug into a pedestal, it goes from here, goes into this box, it converts into 12 volts, or you have to have a converter. It feeds the battery to charge the battery. The battery is then fed back into the 12 volt side here to power everything in your RV, and it's also potentially fed into an inverter if you want to be able to use things off grid, or whenever you're not actually connected to 120 volt power or 110 volt power. And another scenario that might happen is if you have something that needs to run while you're towing your vehicle down the road. You're not going to have access to 120 volt shore power, so you need to make your own. And the way you would make your own, of course, is to connect an inverter to a battery, which would convert it from 12 volts to 110 or 120 volt to be able to power your plugs or other things in your RV. A scenario where a lot of people add perhaps a small inverter is if they keep their RV in storage and they have a solar panel. The solar panel charges the battery. The battery then uses an inverter, and they use a traditional plug-in small compact dehumidifier or something inside of their RV just to keep the moisture low. But that's essentially how the system works. It's these major components. And, you know, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't really understand how everything's routed, but hopefully this video helped clarify it for you a little. Anyways, guys, sure hope that helped a little bit. Big shout out to the folks over at WFCO for providing this equipment, and a big shout out to the folks over at Litime for providing this really, really cool 320 amp hour mini lithium iron phosphate battery. Anyways, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.